from the specialist point of view, you now got an idea of the foundation. Now we're moving on to someone who's heading up FMC Corporation and has been instrumental in setting up the collaboration together with his employees in between FMC Corporation and MyBlueLabel Compliance Services.
Basically, I've been spending 20 years in strategy and in supply chain and operations, and I've been doing that in industries that either manufacture or distribute or consume chemicals. So in many ways, you could say that I've been working 20 years in compliance management. So I do have something to say about this. And compliance, the way I see it, it must be a core value, right? And that seems evident. But it's not the kind of core value that you print out from the internet, you slap it on the wall, and then you sort of look at it from time to time. Compliance obviously is a way that we are really acting together. We are working with integrity, we have ethics, and we are just compliant to the laws and regulations. It's the way that we have to operate. There's just no doubt. And that goes for sales transactions, of course. It goes for vendor negotiations. It's a Christmas lunch these days also. In my area, it's for operations, and in particular, really in safety management, where if you don't comply with the rules of, let's say, the country, you may have to be complying or answering to the rules of nature instead. So really, really very important. I can't underscore it enough how important it is that we have it as a core value. And it really means that you work compliantly without really looking over to the financial performance. That is not something that is relevant. It's not something we need to sort of balance against each other. Compliance comes first. So that's evident possibly, right? But you probably remember the plant in Jiangsu in China that exploded in 2019. Do you remember that one? You probably do when I tell you about it, because not only 78 people died because of that, and half of the industrial park was shattered. There was glass broken 5 kilometers away from the explosion, right? But subsequently, the Chinese government went in there, changed the regulations, shut down 3,000 chemical plants. And why you know of this is because you probably felt this in terms of having to deal with a year of supply disruptions. Remember that in 2019 and 2020, supply disruptions everywhere. And you probably had to rethink your supply chain strategy also. And maybe also look at your force majeure clauses, really. So that's something that I still remember quite well. We have a corporate headquarters in Philadelphia. And not long after the explosion in China, there was a similar explosion in Philadelphia. A refinery exploded. It was so great an event that a vessel, a 20-ton vessel, was flown out of the site across a river 700 meters and landed right on the footpath of where our colleagues normally go for walks during lunch. So imagine you go there with your coffee and sandwich in hand, and here comes like a missile, 20 tons missile, right? So it can be really devastating if you're not really complying with the laws of the country and the laws of nature, you would say here. I see it like compliance must be something we have to look at every day. It's not just the day that the auditors are arriving, it's every day, right? So easy said, very difficult to do. I read that there are 3 million laws out there. There are some lawyers around here, so I blame you, but that's a lot of laws out there, right? And how do you understand all these laws here? Plus you have new laws coming up, you have extensions into new countries, you have regulations, you have interpretations, and then sometimes you even have derogations coming the other way there. So it's a crazy world out there in terms of the laws. So it's very likely that even if you're a company with compliance as a core value, maybe it's not so easy to get it right every day, right? And for that, really, we need to help. We need the help of technology to get this right here. So what we're doing at our plants, in Europe, we are operating 6 plants. It's crop protection. So, it's very important that we get it right, both for our employees, but also for, our customers who are the farmers and growers of the world, for the population who need food, and also you can say to nature, because we need to treat it well. So with all that, we need to do something a little bit above and beyond, just being compliant to the ISO audit. I mean, we do that. We do the COSE audits, we run process hazard analysis assessments, we run triple ISO certificates and all that stuff. But we need to do more. We need to somehow be sure that we are compliant every day, and this is where technology comes in place. You can't look up 3 million laws and check whether you're compliant there. But we are working with some companies that are helping us to identify what are the key rules and regulations per country that we need to look at. And right now, for example, we are running as a part of a sort of continuous improvement, a process where we have 2,000 rules that we have selected that are particularly of importance to us, and checking out against those. So that's going quite well so far, but you can imagine it's quite time consuming really. This is everything from rules about storage of toxic waste to how to manage your canteen, right? So there's a lot of rules out there. So we work with compliance management companies, and this is where Ken, you want to listen up here, right? So we really are very happy with our vendors. They get us access to databases. We get newsletters about the things that are happening. We can design and refine the search parameters. So it's very important for us to have this good collaboration here with some really good and strong and established vendors at the market here. But I feel, or we felt, that it's not really enough for us. It's fine to know here's a new law, you got 3 months to implement it. But what if we could be ahead of the curve here? What if we knew something happening before it actually happened, right? That's what we want to know, because you don't necessarily change the way a structure works in a plant in 3 months' time. It takes time just to get the budget for it. So we want to know rules that are upcoming. We want to be, proactive. We want to get the detailed information that is sort of tailor-made to us. And that's why we're working with MyBlueLabel services here. And so far, we're running a pilot. I say it runs really well. I'm happy with what I've seen so far. We didn't break the bank really, getting to where we are today. Don't tell them. But it's been a reasonable startup. And what I've been really impressed of is the agility that you can actually achieve by working with a startup. I mean, things are happening so fast that it makes us look slow, and we don't really want that. But on the other hand, it's important because we want to get this project rolling fast. So that's really quite nice fun. I see it as a competitive advantage. Right? It's something for the last 20 years, I've been lucky enough to work with companies that see compliance as a competitive advantage. So it's not something that I needed to sell to the CEO. It was just ingrained in the way that we've been doing business. And there are many reasons for this being a competitive advantage. You can think of the cost of non-compliance, of course, right? It's I'm not even talking about the explosions, but some years ago I was working in a company that was dealing with another company who was importing facial creams into Asia. And they were doing that, paying a modest 5% duty, competitive pricing, so low margins. A couple of years earlier, they have made a little change to the formulation. They have added a whitening pigment to sort of make it a little bit more attractive to the Asian market. But they have forgotten to change the HS code. And a couple of years later, it was discovered this is no longer a cream. It is now a cosmetics, 25% duty. So now this company had to pay the duty difference of a low margin product. So sold, you can imagine, you can make up the math there, right? Plus many years there. Very high price to pay for something that really could have been avoided if you had the proper information back then. So the value of that information, very important. I'll give you another example. There's also cost of, you talked about poor quality, Ken. Cost of poor quality. We all know it's expensive, but just last Friday in my industry, not my company, my industry, the French Ministry of Agriculture announced that they were going to destroy some large sugar beet fields in France. That's 500,000 tons, 500,000 tons of sugar beet that has to be destroyed. That's like 10,000 of these rooms here full of sugar beet destroyed. Right? Why? Something had happened with the production, and there were some trace chemicals of some active substances that were not allowed in the EU. And yeah, the rule is the rule, so it had to be destroyed. Can you imagine what happens next, right? Like 273 farmers were affected, so that's 273 lawsuits. So if you're a lawyer, that's an opportunity for you. Price of sugar beet will go up, and also maybe this to you, Tobias. I think they will be needing a new plant manager very soon. So I'll give you the name. So there's cost of poor compliance, but there's also value of proper compliance. And I think that's what I want to end with here. Having the confidence to stand any place and speak about compliance and say, we are good at this. It can be in terms of safety. We have a total recordable injury rate at our place at 0.12, which is world class. I mean, no doubt. And when we say this, it's not like, yeah, it's 0.12. No, we can say it proudly because we know that this is the way that we're operating. We know that we are compliant to the processes and the results are speaking for themselves. But also, if you're the CEO, right, you want to stand in front of your investors and say, don't worry, we got this, we are in compliance. Or if you're in sales in front of your key customers, it's a competitive advantage to just say, don't worry, we got this, right? So I'm thinking back to what you were saying there. If one day I'm the CEO of FMC, I want investors to come to me and ask me about compliance so that I can brag about it and I'll say something like, yes, of course we're compliant. It's a core value of ours.